Messi. Messi. Oh, my goodness. Balotelli. Aguero. Oh, that is extraordinary. What a head, son. What a head. Back of the net.
Hello and welcome to the Not A Pundit podcast. My name is Killian, and I'm delighted to be joined as ever by Conor Glennon and Nathan Byrne. Yes, we are still together despite being at each other's throats last week. Gentlemen, family therapy has gone well. How...
My blood pressure it's gone down finally. You really knew which button to press last week, but no, listening back to the episode, it made for a good chat. So all in good fun. How are you, Nate?
I'm ready for round two. I
don't know if I could take round two.
No, I'm joking. I'm doing well. How are you, Killian?
I'm great. Like, it's just great to be proven right constantly and seeing our comments to agree with me. It was always good. But not everything was good with me. I did see my beloved Sunderland in Stadium Light against Watford, which is great, and I brought my girlfriend to her first ever football match, which is
for
lovely.
her sins.
For her sins. She did actually enjoy it, and keep an eye on our social channels for more on that later in the week. But it was not all fun and games getting there.
Oh, really? Why was that, Killian?
So, I was gifted the tickets, so I decided I'm going to go the night before because the game was at 12:30, so perfect. Yeah. Organise the car, accommodation, going to do it right. We arrive at the airport, go up, and the guy behind the counter goes, "Oh, this ticket is for the 7th of March, not the 7th."
Did you think he was joking?
I was like, yeah, it's wrong. No, 7th of March. Right. Okay. He goes, leave it with me. Now, bear in mind, this was within the 2.5 hour window before your flight. And at that point, Ryanair does not sell you a new ticket and won't do it.
Oh, they don't sell you a new ticket
online?
For that?
No, not really. Unless they have space for it. And your man went off, and he was very helpful, very nice, and fair play to him. And he kind of came back. But in the interim, and this is where I'm going to hold my hands up and say, it's not always me. There was a family behind me and another guy behind me, all the same issue, all going to the UK, all with the same dates. And I'm kind of like, is it us? But I have a car that I have to pick up on the other side. I had accommodation I had to get to. The game was so early the next day, I didn't want to miss it. So I paid to basically change the ticket.
How much for the pleasure?
To get there was €220 a head.
Oh,
€441. And to come back was going to cost me another $350. Now, I went with a different Shamrock branded air. It was on one of the regional propeller planes, which fits about 12 people. And
the old Air Arrow.
those things are scary.
They're ropey.
Like I didn't eat beforehand in case we were going to be overweight. So that was another €200 for the pleasure. But I didn't get the refund for the old one because it was amending the tickets. So to get to Sunderland, not even to Sunderland, just get to Newcastle and back, because that's where the airport was, cost me in my pocket about 960 odd euro.
Oh God!
Oh, just to watch Sunderland for.
And watch Sunderland draw as well.
So watch Sunderland draw was the hard part, but
after the strife of it, what was the game like?
The game was great. Atmosphere was great. Very entertaining. Disappointing for a lot of it. It didn't play great, but I got to see some of the players beforehand. Wilton Isidore, Enzo Lafie, Chris Rigg, Luke O'Nien. Even got to spot our owners, Sir Louis Dreyfus and Juan Sartori. Very, very rich people, which was great. Got to see Danny Collins, the former Sunderland, Wales and Stoke player, who does our EFL TV fan thing. That he's one of our presenters. So it was a great experience overall. And we were in Quinn's Bar, which is kind of like you're not in the general public. You have your own kind of bar. And what was great about it as well is, and I was kind of really delighted to be there as early as we were, was you get a free meal with it, and because the game was so early, we got a free breakfast bap, which was class.
Oh, you the full English experience is what you're saying.
Yeah, with proper Cumberland sausages. So all in all, I am poorer, grayer, and somehow happier to have gone.
Well, so like I actually haven't been to an FA Cup game before. I don't think so. Anyway, what was the atmosphere like?
It wasn't an FA Cup; it was Championship.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, my brain's
Or
yeah.
was that a little dig? No. It was Championship game, and considering it was only another weekly game, with Watford, it was more important for Watford to get a result out of it than it was for us. Our side held our own. Tom Cleverley's actually a decent manager. I'll give it to him. Master of the dark arts. He winds up players. I
know
players how to do it.
I know I speak for Nate when I say this. Big fan of that.
Okay, but like he is sitting 12th in the Championship.
No, like yeah, but the Championship's tight this year. I'll admit that.
Where are the Mackham sitting at the moment?
We are 4th, I think.
Okay, so you're still in the hunt. Well in the hunt.
Yeah, like we're way into like I'm not worried about our position after the game. Yeah, we're 4th. We're 2 points behind Burnley ahead of us, and we're 12 points ahead of West Brom in 5th.
Oh yeah, okay. You're somewhat cruising.
Yeah, we're nailed on for playoffs at this point.
I will say though, I know we've talked about it on the pod before, the playoffs. I don't like, my heart goes out, even as much as I hate Sunderland as a team. The playoffs are rough. Like, that is not an enjoyable existence.
But it is one of the most entertaining parts of football.
100%. Yeah,
it is class.
You get some of the best, I suppose, TV. Like, sure, that Dean Windass goal. How many times has that been replayed on Sky over the last many years?
Even who was it? Watford and
when they ran the pitch and scored.
Yeah, the Troy Deeney last minute of, was it even extra time? Like it produces some of the best moments and some of the biggest heartbreaks and some.
You know what I've always found funny, or not always, what I recently found funny about the playoffs is, that used to be the £100 million game, and that was the one you wanted to win because it gave you a transfer budget. Now 100 million isn't like 100 million when you won the playoffs 10 years ago versus 100 million now is a very different proposition. Like in terms of what you can go out and buy for that 100 million.
Well, see, it's no longer 100 million. It's actually much, much more when you put in your parachute payments.
Oh, fair.
So you get 100 million to get to the Premier League. But if that's why teams don't mind going down, is because when they come down, they'll have so much more money than every other team in the Championship.
They can make a better go second time round.
Exactly.
See, isn't this the beauty of football? Is I can never relate to a playoff final, and you can't relate to signing a £100 million player. This is the beauty of football.
Yeah, well, you're the only one out of all of us in mid table.
Oh,
okay.
Oh God.
Okay.
There's only one team here making redundancies for the second time in a season.
Yeah, like I know we had a lot of chat about how to make clubs profitable last week, and without bringing up that family feud again, I was very sad to see another. Is it 100 people? I think I saw 100 on the Athletic. So that's what 250 last summer, 100 this time around. Like, look, maybe the club needs trimming. I don't know, Nate, but I mean, it's never nice to see that because it's people that have probably been there for donkey's years.
Yeah, like it's obviously sad. To be honest, there hasn't been a great amount of communication about it. But yeah, like obviously it's sad, and the club will have the reasons why they did it. Whether that's good enough, I don't know. Personally, because I don't know what they are. But yeah, it's sad to see.
It just seems like yet another, like, even if those redundancies were needed, would you not try kick that can down the road for a while? Because like it just seems to be poor optics after poor optics after poor optics, and they just need to get some quick wins under the belt. Because look, I'm not saying it's a dumpster fire. Look, it's a project club. We all knew that was going to be the case for the foreseeable, but it just seems from an ownership perspective, they're really not helping themselves, at least from an image point of view.
Ratcliffe has a lawsuit to pay for. What are you talking about? The All Blacks team are suing Ineos for not making any payments towards the training agreement that they had promised them. I think I think the wheels are generally coming off that ownership bus where any goodwill that could have been is very quickly evaporating, and unless things start turning on the pitch, it's an extension of the Glazers' ownership as far as I'm concerned.
But like I personally think discussing like, and I've had this debate myself as where you're like, oh, did the owners even care? I don't even think like Radcliffe cared from day one. I don't think he will ever care. It's like, and obviously that's annoying as a United fan, but that's how he is. Like,
So when you say he doesn't
seemingly,
care, what's his?
I don't think he cares what people say about the
Oh,
decisions he
okay,
makes.
yeah,
Do you know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean?
He's
Like,
kind of just like, I'll do what I'll do, and when it works out, they'll shout my name, kind of thing.
yeah, like I genuinely think he's a multi-billionaire, and how he is, he's like, I don't care what people think. I'll make these decisions, and seemingly none of the decisions he's come out and had to speak on. So that's clearly how he feels.
Yeah, he kind of has the kind of autocratic hold on them where he answers to nobody, which rightly or wrongly is the deal that he has done. But speaking of Man United deals, Marcus Rashford has made his debut for Villa Night. The game we'll touch on, but the bits around the game, Instagram maybe not the best tool for former or current Man United players.
Yeah, I think it's just sour grapes, and like to me, I find it quite funny because it's like, yeah, fellas, you make what 350 grand a week, grow up.
For those
Um,
that missed it, what went on?
so like I think Marcus Rashford put up a post to the Villa fans or whatever, and Jadon Sancho came out and goes, freedom. It's like, my initial thought was like, Jesus, God help me! I wish someone would lock me up getting 350 grand a week. Like that's how I initially felt. But yeah, they're just grown children at this stage.
Well, they literally are.
Yeah. But I have to say though about Rashford's debut itself, I thought he played fine, better than I had expected him. I didn't get to watch the whole match, but I saw enough of it to kind of have an opinion on it. And to be honest, what I thought was most impressive of it was Unai Emery's tactical nous to kind of change the game and change how the team is operating to accommodate him. So himself and Asenio both came on for the last 30 minutes, and the two of them kind of played up front. So rather than having Asenio behind Rashford, where you kind of expect in their normal formation, they had them side by side, which then actually allowed uh, Rashford to kind of float out left, and like the likes of the likes of Malin or Ramsey could then kind of go in center and cut in, and Asenio be that kind of top guy because he's a 10, yeah, but he's a big enough dude.
Yeah.
And like I thought it was just really interesting to kind of see how Emery obviously signed him with a plan.
Well, that's the thing that, like we were saying last week, and I think I touched on it in the fact that, look, Emery's not a buffoon. Like, he wouldn't have made this move if he doesn't think it's going to work, or at least has the possibility to work. Look, it's down to Rashford. We know that. I think one thing that I didn't see too much of his performance, I won't lie, but one thing I was glad to hear, now this obviously sounds like the bare minimum for a professional athlete, but Emery did say he trained incredibly well since he's come into the club, and that's been something that's been, a black mark against him for a couple of years now. So, look, I really hope it works out for him. It seems like Emery has a plan in place that it can work out if Rashford's willing to put in the work.
Nate, has your opinion changed on Rashford's move, having kind of gotten to see him in the colours now and see him under Emery?
No, not really. I watched the game and I initially was like, okay, this optically just looks weird. Like seeing him in a
Yeah, it doesn't
Aston
suit him.
Villa
Yeah,
kit. I
it
was
did look odd, yeah.
like, what's going on here? And then, with the BS that's happened after it and like how they act, and I'm far from Simon Jordan's biggest fan on Talksport or whatever, but he called him, like he said, that he can't handle home truths, and I think that goes for Sancho and Rashford. Is that's not the player that we signed from the academy. You know what I mean? He's a totally different person. You can see it. His attitude is just God knows where. And like, yeah, that's a product of what the club has been for a very long time. But personally speaking, and it's a big thing to say, is I've no connection to Marcus Rashford anymore. I really don't. I don't identify, like, I don't mean in a rude way. I don't identify him, but I don't have that connection with him as a fan to a
Which is
player
a
anymore.
shame because I think for a good while you were trying to defend him in what can be defended, and he is a great example, sorry, was a great example of a youth player that kind of went through all ranks of a club and really made it. So it's a shame to see it kind of go off a cliff. The thing that I was really surprised to see, and we touched on this as well, of will he kind of shed the people around him that have been really, I suppose, affecting his football. And from what I've read, I don't know how true this is, but I've seen it in a couple of publications that he hasn't moved house. He's commuting from his current place, which is like a good 2 hour drive to training. So this is, again, I know the John Duran situation got shut down by Al Nasser, saying that is not the truth, that he is flying 80 minutes to training and apparently does have a house close to the ground. But little things like that for Rashford they become big things in a dressing room very fast.
Especially when like the team has been kind of generally overperforming and doing so well, and as we said last week, they don't necessarily need him.
Yeah,
Like, they may have a plan for him, but they don't necessarily need him.
Rashford needs them; they don't need him.
Yeah, and when you have the likes of Rodgers coming through, and obviously Mal and that they just signed, like, and Ramsey there already, like, I would always be worried about sowing any seeds of discontent when things are going well. But there was a seed of discontent sown over the weekend. Plymouth 1, Liverpool 0. Nate, isn't
The
this the
wheels are
beauty
falling
of...
off.
No, no,
The wheels are falling off today.
no. This is just the beauty of the FA Cup.
Yeah, that's what you call it. Obviously the wheels aren't falling off, but like, you never know what a slip might turn into a big fall. I'm praying here, guys.
I don't know
It's a
about you,
slip.
Nate.
It's a slip, not a tumble.
I don't know about you, Nate. I think it's just a case of, they're top of the Champions League table, they're top of the league table, they've got a Carabao Cup final. Something's got to break, and I think for how far they are in the tournament, it was just the one that they kind of had to take a knee on. And if the younger lads got through, great. If they didn't, come what may,
Hey, Jurgen Klopp would have wanted to stay in all them competitions.
And that's my point, though, because remember, not too long ago they were going for 4 trophies, and did they get 1 at the end?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like, it's not like they had a bad team out on the weekend.
No.
Like, it was enough team for first in the league to be last in the championship. Like, yeah, it just didn't click for them. I thought it was hilarious. Queven Kelleher had the most shots on target, tied with other players. I thought that's a magical stat. Like, you feel bad for the fans that paid to go watch that. Like,
Get him his big transfer move. Put him up top. I don't care. Wherever he can play, just get him that move.
like it was gas. And yeah, like, I don't think there's much we can read into it, but like, I'm just praying here.
It's things you love to see. It can definitely go in that category. Another one, I don't know if you boys caught it, was Leyton Orient against City. Leyton Orient really put in a great shift and pushed them very, very close. They had to rely on the big boys of De Bruyne coming back, and they nearly leveled it with 2 minutes to go. But I mean, hats off to Leyton Orient. It wasn't like, don't get me wrong, City played poor, but it wasn't a case of the Leyton Orient got lucky in the way they were playing. They really played some coordinated football, and fair play.
Obviously, we touched on Villa with Rashford, but we should really touch on the other side of that tie, who did not come out on top, which is Tottenham. Conor, we've kind of touched on it before. Are we going to lose the normal one this year?
I think so. Things in football can change very quickly. You win 3 or 4 games in a row and people think you're great, but they don't look like they're going to do that. The football they're playing is not great. Yes, they're fleeced with injuries. I do think it's a case of the road's running out for them. I threw it in the group chat during the week. This stinks of a April sacking with a Mason coming in as caretaker to the end of the season. Because let's face it, I don't think it'll be in the next couple of weeks. I'll probably eat my words when I say that, but there doesn't seem to be anyone around who'd be sticking their hands up for that job straight away. So for me, unfortunately, I think we will be losing the normal one. What are you saying?
Yeah, well, ultimately, results don't lie, and I think what's worse is the fans are turning on him.
That's where I think that where it's becoming untenable. It's getting nasty. Like,
Nate, what do you think? Like, it would be a shame to lose him because the football is good, but when when he's coming out and saying that himself, like, are we not entertaining you? It's not a great defense.
well, it's good when you're not a Spurs fan.
May I just say it would not be a shame to lose him, because may I go back to it again? Nate is right again in terms of, I said this fella was a fraud from the beginning. I said he was all talk, no boy. And look what's happened. The wheels have fallen off. And yeah, his beautiful football is not very beautiful anymore, is it, when he's shipping 4 goals a game?
Well, I don't think you can necessarily blame him when this is consistently manager on manager being and having problems.
I can't blame him when I go back and watch that one Chelsea game where he literally
I'm
played.
not defending every game, but
No, but I'm
you
just saying, like,
can't
this guy
blame the
with
fall of
the.
Sodom on him.
I put a lot of blame on him in terms of the way he's handled himself, like in the job. Like, he's like, I've never seen someone be so arrogant about a position. Going back to the comment about, oh yeah, we always win in my second season.
That
We clearly
that
don't,
that
mate.
that was mental though. Like to that may be true, and you could be statistically true, but like, why put undue pressure on yourself? That like the journalists would have been licking their lips when they heard that. That's their headline sorted, and they can drag them over the coals if it doesn't happen. Like, there's the risk versus reward, and that makes no sense.
And he's done it multiple times. So, like, to me, that's just amateur hour. It really is.
So, do you think that he became so fixated on the cult of personality around himself and the facade that he made of himself that he kind of just that was his defense going forward, and he could just do whatever he wanted, and he was untouchable because of
Yeah.
what people thought he was?
Yeah, I genuinely think Celtic buffed up his ego a bit. Like, and I mean that, like, I like Celtic. I'm a Celtic enjoyer, but
A Celtic enjoyer. That's a new one.
like, I'm not a Celtic fan. Like, I can't pledge that, but like, I love when Celtic win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in terms of, like, I think he got a bit too big for his boots off what he done in the Scottish League. I'll say that.
Well, I think, we've seen it happen before with managers, and I don't want to say smaller leagues because, like, Celtic are one of the biggest clubs in the world, as are Rangers. But, same thing happened with Jared at Rangers. I think he got a bit too big for his boots when he came down south,
They are like different qualities of leagues. Like, we can't.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
this goes back to how he deals with himself. Do you know what I mean? The things he's saying in the media, it's like, to me, that's an ego problem.
So, do you think that he has been operating under the assumption that he is bigger than his players in regards to the club's plans?
I don't know about that.
I think he's been operating under the assumption that he's better than he is, and he knows more than he does.
I'd agree with that. I think it's more that.
I don't know. I to be honest, it's, to me, it seems like he was sold a plan and he's bought into it and basically told. It seems, as probably all Tottenham managers are told, yeah, we're going to build this around you, come what may, and we're giving you a 3-year contract or whatever it is, and you're going to see out your contract and you can develop your team over that time. And I'd say he expects that to still be the case, whereas as we've seen time and time again with Tottenham, that's not what happens.
The only way I see him staying in the job for further than April is, now I don't know how, again, true these rumors are, but I think the fans have had a tumultuous relationship with Daniel Levy. There's rumors circulating that he's flirting with the idea of new ownership. And if that is, there's no point, if that is to happen, if a new owner's come in and take over Tottenham, there's no point in Levy getting a new manager for then that ownership group to probably get a new manager. So I think it's going to be the case within the next few months. Either Levy goes or Postecoglou goes. I think definitely one of them. I just don't know which one's going to happen first.
So is he heading back to Celtic after?
But this is what I was going to say, lads. Like, where does he go?
Like, honestly, I think he's been showing up a good bit. And I could say one thing or another is like I think Ten Hag got done with that thing is where he's been showing up in the Premier League, this and that. The same still applies for Ange. Then you know what I mean? And and I hate to harp back to that one game and we've seen multiple games where his tactics have been all over the place. I think a lot of that comes down to what he got away with in smaller leagues. And that's my opinion.
You're not wrong.
I think he's going to have probably a better opportunity with a better club if he does go than you may expect. I think it'd be kind of
But like, who are you saying?
upper mid table Bundesliga, lower mid table Premier League. Like, I think a clever club will take him on if and when Xabi Alonso goes. Leverkusen, I think a Brighton could look at him. Any of them kind of slightly more upwardly mobile,
Less politicky.
clubs. Yeah, where they're a little bit more kind of going, no, we're a coaching team. We're going to bring you in and you're going to develop. And if you need a little bit of time, we'll give you it. Just don't take
This may be recency bias, but like, is he capable of that with the clubs that big? Because yes, like take Celtic as a club are gigantic, but take out like the prestige of Celtic. They're a very lower Premier League team. Like, as in terms of the resources he's used to, can he cut it at the top level in Europe?
Yeah, of course he can. Like, he did it in the top level of Japan. He did it in the international sides for
Small country, small market again. You know,
rabid fan base and a rapidly growing football fan base. Celtic, I don't care what anybody says, is a politically difficult job with fans that are overly into it.
Yeah.
And I think
easy football job.
I
think you're right. The footballing side of it's easier. The political side of it's harder.
Yeah, but when you look at the likes of the Bundesliga, where the football would be a little bit more forgiving than the Premier League, shall we say, and the politics end of it would be a lot more like Celtic, I think he can handle that perfectly. And the other thing we have to remember here, Simon, I'm sorry, but when's the last time a Tottenham fan actually liked any of their managers? It's been a while.
Well, there is that. Like, you look at it's getting to a point, and that's why I'm saying about the Levy and ownership group moving on, because how many managers are they going to cycle through before someone admits there's deeper problems there?
But has Ange done anything? This is a question for both of these. Has Ange done anything to impress you during his time as Spurs?
No.
Like, and
the biggest not concern, the biggest kind of surprise for me was when he started using Maddison as an impact player as opposed to a starter. Like, it didn't.
Yeah, that's your guy that you brought in. Like,
yeah, I don't get that. Like,
but like also
he did something to impress me.
What?
He handled the Kane transition perfectly. The biggest change that club had in about a decade.
I think that was
Kane, and he handled it perfectly.
I think that was an easy one. Because
No. When we were all talking about it beforehand, we all said that this could go one way or the other.
Yeah,
that deal was like done though before he even joined.
Yeah, if anything, it makes his life easier coming into it. Going, well, I'm not the one who got rid of him. I just managed the guys I got here.
Yeah, but the thing was, straight away after he hit the ground running without him.
I mean,
we can't forget that. And when you're still reliant on Son, 2 years probably after he should have been sold, it was the summer that Kane left. Really saw if Kane wasn't even, you would have been getting rid of Son. You would have been getting rid of one of them because he's not at the peak of his powers anymore. And he got a great tune out of him in the post-Kane era, and he kept them to be very, very solid after that. When we've seen with other clubs when they lose their big players that they can take a serious wobble.
Just on the Kane point, I saw apparently there's a release clause in his contract that this summer he's 65 million to buy, and the next summer he's 55. That's not bad business. Not saying back to Spurs, but I'm saying for that kind of money, you could do a hell of a lot worse.
I've seen him linked with Arsenal.
That would just never happen.
That would be funny.
It'd be brilliant, but he'd never do it.
I've seen Darren Bent and Sol Campbell both saying that he would consider it.
You've got some really reliable blokes there. Darren Bent and Sol Campbell.
Well, Sol Campbell haven't made the move.
Yeah, there's not a chance. Like Kane's England captain, he's not going to do that.
I could see United doing it if we got a fiver back for Hoyland. Like,
Just do a swap and Hoyland become like Lewandowski in the Bundesliga. It'd be just United's luck.
I don't think that fella's becoming Lewandowski in any league. I can't lie.
Do we see Kane back in the Premier League at any point?
Yeah, I think
I don't know if it'd be the same Kane though.
if he's up for it, I think United would do it.
Do you think he's just coming to break Shearer's record though? Like, I'm not even trying to shoehorn in Newcastle in that chat. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's the only reason why he comes back, because any club that's going to win the Premier League are not going to sign him.
He's what? He's like 40 odd off it, isn't he?
He's probably 2 years away, realistically.
Yeah, like 2 decent years.
Yeah.
But then I think he's worth it. Like, I think he's worth it. If he's hungry to break that record, I think he's worth it.
If United can get him for sub 60 million and he wants to break the record, that would be...
Well, it's like bringing in Van Persie when he came into United. Like, that could shake up the dressing room in that way. And you're just getting him for a couple of years and that's going to be that. But look at that transfer. That worked out majestically.
Remember we signed Cavani and he was actually killing it for ages.
Oh,
like, at his age, like, he was actually killing it in the Premier League.
And then you sign Ronaldo and just scuppered the whole thing that was working.
Or the one that really was it Falcao was there and his knee just blew up, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and then he went to
we love
to
our
Chelsea.
old strikers.
Sure, he's did it. Hendrik Larsson to great success as well back in the day.
Yeah,
when it works, it works. Sometimes these punts are worth it.
But we have obviously lots and lots of clips and stuff from last week. So before we move on, I do want to actually touch on some of the comments from people that tuned in from last week in regards to our PSR
Family Feud.
Is this where I get called an knobhead? Like,
I'm sorry, I deleted that comment. So on one of the clips, Arsenal also had a £250 war chest and haven't been able to spend near that much since, on the back of views basically saying that if we have all this money, why can't we spend it? On Marcus Rashford, isn't it crazy that Rashford has just become a body for a team? Do you think he asks to stay or pushes for a move outside the Premier League this summer?
Nate, do you want to take that one?
I think it's a bit like what he should do versus what he will do. I think he probably will stay in the Premier League. That's where the money is, and his wages are astronomical. He's still got 4 years left on that deal. If he's serious about getting his career back on track, I think he needs to look at the Bundesliga and Serie A. Maybe even the Spanish league. I think there are ways to get back into it, and I think it all just comes down to what he thinks and what he wants to do, and it will be very evident with his decision.
I think I'd mirror Nate's comments on that one. I think the only one potentially that people should look out for is the likes of a PSG move. I think they have the money to be able to give him what he wants, the lifestyle from living in Paris point of view. So I hope he doesn't make a move like that and he goes more down the route that Nate's saying.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I think. I'm surprised at how well Emery's handled him. I don't know if he'll get the game time that he actually wants come the end of the year, and that may push him. Camilo.tb on Instagram. Biggest difference between Man United and Barcelona, and this is when we were talking about financial rules, and I said, look what happened to Barcelona. We don't want that happening in the Premier League. Barcelona are literally intertwined into economics of the city via the socio model, gov-backed loans and tax benefits. United, on the other hand, while recovering breaks on infrastructure, really doesn't get back much. I agree Barcelona will always be saved, whereas United would need another ownership group to save them. We need a European salary cap or something adjacent to the NBA aprons. I think ultimately that'll enable supporters to own clubs again and have a say and make for real parity.
I mean, look, I'd love to see a fan-owned model again. Shout out to anyone who watched Dream Team back in the day. But yeah, no, really interesting comment there. I think he's right from a new ownership group base, from a Man United, I do think a Europe-wide salary cap would be tricky to navigate just based off the fact that each league has different TV deals and different money within it. So I think I'm all up for a salary cap. I just think it would probably have to be localized more than Europe-wide.
I will politely disagree. I think if that's what you want, I think the MLS is for you. I personally don't. In regards to United and how their debt is structured, there's really no benefit for United clearing their debt. It doesn't hinder us in any way.
Apart from the interest repayment.
Yeah, but like that's the reason why we keep it open, is because the actual downside to it will be if we paid it, that'd be so much money going out of the club. Where now we can just keep it in our means, and to me that's perfectly fine.
Well, I think part of the point that's kind of interesting is the sense that, like, especially you see it now with, as we touched on earlier, the Ratcliffe firings, that you are kind of losing that the community dependencies that is currently on the club, that would potentially encourage government or state in help should the need ever arise, whereas Barcelona have maintained that.
Possibly, I like, as I said, if the clubs
You don't want to be in
ran
a position that you ever need that, though.
yeah, but if the clubs ran properly, then it won't be in that position ever. So that's
Thanks for the comment, though. Really interesting.
At Big Boy Shit 1
love to use a name.
on YouTube. Have it independently regulated. Changing sponsorship rules 6 days after a takeover feels a bit corrupt. This came out in the Man City court case. The EPL claims they have been planning the change anyway, but then couldn't produce any evidence.
So we've got a City fan on our hands here. Like,
I honestly, I kind of read that a little bit as a potential Newcastle fan.
When that started out, I was like, how am I going to navigate this? Yeah, that sounded right up my alley.
Look, so it's kind of like a middle ground from what we were all saying. So it's not exactly free reign, but it'd be independent so that the league aren't the ones deciding.
Yeah, I'm totally down for that. Look, I mean, my only thing with that is there is talk of an independent regulator at the moment. I think there is some sort of regulator in place currently, and it's not very transparent. I think whether it's an independent regulator or a governing body regulator, I think there just needs to be transparency to it and legal ramifications for breaking it that are clear and obvious, because there's too much grey area at the moment.
in just in terms of the sponsorship thing, is I don't really know how this is personally still a big issue in the Premier League, because I just think any sponsorship deal should be thoroughly investigated regardless. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the thing, Nate. I think none of us are looking to dodge the rules here, but I think we're in a position now
some of you don't want rules at all.
Well, no, like I'm all up for rules that work. You know,
PSR and sponsorship related deals are two different subjects, and I just think in terms of the sponsorship stuff, it's not hard to investigate a company and see is there ties there. It's really not. So
yeah, it's just doing due diligence. Like it's like Nate said, it's not hard at all.
It's like in the F1 where all these vape companies just happen to be popping up on the cars, and they're definitely not connected to the tobacco industry.
That's something we actually need to do an episode on sponsorship within the game. Everyone
knows that, you know what I mean? So like, it's not being investigated, where that's what we're asking for in the Premier League, is like, if there is a dodgy deal, and you know, City have had their fair few where like imaginary people are owning companies, it's like, if we can figure it out, the Premier League can't.
It's also the thing that I really want to see happen is it's too long between it happening and the ramifications of doing it, because it gets tied up in legal hearsay and back and forths and appeals, and it should just be a quicker system to, you broke the rules, we know you did, here's your fine or your punishment, we move on.
At will ZG3LW. People who say it's never going to happen ask Pompey fans how they enjoyed League 2. Dumb people say we don't need PSR. Argue about where the line is, £100 million, £150 million, all you want, all you like, but it has to be there. I like Will. Will makes a very good point.
I'm surprised you like Will, seeing as he thinks me and Nate are thick.
Nice
No,
friends, you, Killian.
no, look, there's been plenty of examples of poor ownership, and that's what myself and Nate were saying last week. Look, I'm not saying even the big Barcelona we're saying is too big to fail. They said that about the banks, and it happened. Anything can happen in football. I think it all comes back to, like we said, owners' tests. If we're going to be spending the volumes of money that are in football at the moment, we need to at least know the operators behind that money. And I think that would sort a lot of problems.
Listen, I'm just going to tell Will how it is. If a football club is going to go under, it's going to go under. Like, we can't be babysitting football clubs for the for the detriment of the game, in my opinion. And saving clubs from themselves is like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Like, that's life. And I think you can do as much as you can to stop it, but I think overstepping boundaries to stop it is totally different. And I just think let clubs play.
Well, if you'd like to share your thoughts with us, do follow us across social media at Not A Pundit Pod. Is generally you'll find
just
us.
Don't be like Will.
But we do love to hear from yous, and the more comments we get, the more we'll respond and make a little bit of loving over it. But one thing that has been getting quite a bit of love, and hopefully is going to continue to grow, Nathan, is the League of Ireland. It's coming back. Obviously, we have new broadcast and radio deals, which is fantastic to see. But has that kind of continued to replicate itself with the fans?
Yeah, like I think there's a fair bit of excitement around the league coming back. Personally, I don't know, the way it's set up, it feels like a new season starts every 5 minutes. That's how it feels to me. But yeah, there's a big game in the Aviva on Sunday, Bows versus Rovers. 25,000 tickets sold.
Is that it?
A bit on the low side there. Like I thought they could have rallied the troops a bit. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
What was the
do you
price?
guys think of that?
What was the price point on tickets?
25 for adults and 15 for kids.
Oh, that's the kids one on a big game like that. Yeah, it's kind of where you kind of take the hit. You'd quicker spend 20 quid as an adult, or 30 quid for as an adult, and having like a fiver for a kid. It ends up working the same, but it kind of stings a little bit differently.
Or even do a 2-for-1 on kids tickets, something to push it a bit more. And like, I mean, let's face it, the game being in the Aviva is a chance to have a spectacle in the league and bring more eyes and get more fans. So yet again, cost structures within Irish sports are backfiring.
But there was also, just quickly, there was also discussions like in the media about Bows could be playing more games at the Aviva when they move out to redo up their stadium. And I'm like, with all due respect, if that's the number of fans we're getting in for the
biggest game in the league,
is, I don't think that's a good idea, lads.
I mean, it sets a precedent,
That's one of the things I kind of wanted to touch on, though, is like 25,000. It's this weekend. At 25 quid a ticket. That's
you're running about 600k.
Yeah. It probably costs
625.
It probably costs 250, 300 overall to run the Aviva.
Well, I think for a game like that, because let's face it, it's not a simple football game. It's not even, you can't even compare it to an Ireland like national game. You're talking more cops at it than an All Ireland final. With that comes choppers in the air. That comes, road traffic, like cops. You've got security. You'll have to fully staff the stadium. That's a big operation.
Huge. Like it's a worry when things are already tight enough as it is, and I know we're saying that generally there's more crowds than there had been before overall. I know there was little dips or whatever, but that's teething problems. We don't want clubs to be losing money unnecessarily, especially when we're going to be having more opportunities to not have to go to games, which is great. Like if you don't live near, like I'm in the middle of the country, so to go to any game is a pain in the ass. So having the broadcast deals and the radio deals is fantastic for me. But at what stage does it become incentivizing fans to stay home and then making it only ever more expensive to try and do ambitious things like games in the Aviva?
Well, this is like we see it in on the continent more so. Like La Liga and Serie A, every game is available to watch on some streaming platform, and due to that, there's very rarely a full stadium at any game in either of those leagues that isn't a gigantic game. So, like, I think for the health of the league, there needs to be financial incentives for people to turn up to these games because, like you said, if you're coming down from where you are, there's a cost involved in that before you even hit the stadium, so it needs to be affordable, especially if you got kids in the mix.
I found, and so this is a post from 2011, so probably double the fees and take it all with a pinch of salt. That was saying that Shamrock Rovers back then was paying 200k a match just to rent the Aviva, and that at that time Leinster was paying 500k.
Wow.
Now, obviously, that sounds like a half full stadium versus full stadium costing, but add inflation and all that on top, well, that
So
suddenly.
What do you think, just quickly, optically? Do you think it looks bad? Like, do you think it looks bad, half-filled stadium? Do you think we shouldn't be trying to run before we can walk type situation? Like,
I think absolute scenes in a League of Ireland stadium optically outweighs a patchy full of Aviva. Regardless, it could be the greatest game the League of Ireland's ever seen, and if it's a kind of polka dot of fans around the stadium in the Aviva, it just doesn't look good for sponsors as well.
Like, what's better, a full Olympia Stadium gig or Olympia Theatre gig versus a Tree Arena that's half empty? I've been in both, and I can tell you the full one is always more fun. Gives you that buzz that can't be replicated.
But
And
it scares sponsors away. It scares publishing partners away. It scares retail partners away. Anyone you can think of that brings any money into the club from a third party place, that gives you nerves of what your investment's going to return for you.
people are very simple creatures as well, though. It's like you associate the thing you keep seeing. So if you keep
Recency
turning
bias, yeah.
Yeah, but if you keep turning on a Champions League game and seeing a small team losing all the time, you're like, oh, well, they must be crap. Well, no, they were good enough to get to the Champions League. You have to remember that.
Yeah.
If you keep turning on League of Ireland games in the likes of the Aviva and it's always empty, when you're kind of going, oof, well, either these teams are crap or nobody likes them. And it's a kind of a stigma that you don't necessarily need, Nate.
Well, sorry to jump in on this one, Nate, but just that's a really good point you raised, Killian, because and I'd be interested in Nate's opinion on this. With Virgin coming in from a distribution point of view, like you said, there's most likely there's going to be a lot of people around this country that will tune into 1-2 games a year, maybe, and if they see it empty every time, what happens next? Sorry to cut in on you there, Nate.
yeah, what was your question again, Killian?
Just about, like, is it worth having the stigma of seeing empty stadiums on TV when that's what might be associated with the league then going forward?
Yeah, I think they'll be a bit smart with how they portray it across the TV. But
They'll
yeah,
have to be.
I just think it doesn't look bad. Like, it doesn't look good optically. It is there a need for it? I don't think so. Like, build your way up. Like, there's nothing wrong with having one game a year in the Aviv, and it's the FAI Cup final. You know what I mean?
That makes it more special, you know.
Exactly. Or like, say if a Bows or Rovers are like knocked on to win the league or whatever, have that final game in the Aviv and stack it out with their fans. Like, that's what we should be doing. But for like to kick off the league and just be a generic league game, I don't think it makes much sense.
In the spirit of the recent NFL announcement, should the league look at and be better off at doing bringing the game around, like bringing it to different stadiums rather than, like, the NFL is going abroad, whereas instead of Bows and Shamrock Rovers going to the Aviva Stadium, maybe not selling out, maybe going around the country to places where there's not games and kind of going, all right, this is an interesting matchup. Let's choose a neutral ground and potentially reach a new fan base that we're not normally catering to.
I think that's a difficult question because you give away home advantage really. I see why the NFL do it because commercially it makes a lot of sense. Like, you know, the Steelers coming to Ireland, like they've got a huge fan base there because there's that Irish heritage or whatever. For the League of Ireland, I don't really think it makes much sense. Like, Bo's going to play in like wherever, you know what I mean? It's something they can do when like they expand and stuff. But I think we just need to grind out a few more seasons of the league, build on the deals, and don't go too quick.
The only thing about it is, I think with the expansion idea, like I think even if they only did 2 or 3 games away from home, any teams, that it might actually help understand where the fan bases is for the expansion teams.
I think where the league can do, or when I say the league, I think where Ireland can do better at bringing the game into different markets is bringing the national team games outside Dublin more frequently. And look, I know stadium wise you're limited with options there, but I think moving around the best players we have around the nation at least opens up football to more people, and you can grow the game that way.
Which is ultimately what we all want, aside from growing podcasts. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to the Not A Pundit podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute and utter pleasure, as always. We'll chat to you next week.
Bye-bye.
Messi.